The Galactic Empire's contempt for humanity was broadcast across the galaxy, a carefully orchestrated display of arrogance meant to humiliate Earth. In a sprawling chamber filled with towering figures of power, the Emperor himself addressed the Council of Allied Species. His voice, deep and resonant, echoed through the hall as he gestured dismissively toward a holographic projection of Earth's outdated jet fighters. These machines, he sneered, allowing the word to linger with disdain, are the best your so-called resilient species can muster? Truly, I expected more from the defenders of such an obstinate world. Laughter rippled through the alien assembly. The Galactic Empire's broadcasts were infamous, reaching not only their allies, but also the very planets they sought to subjugate. To Earth, it was a taunt, a gauntlet thrown before a fight the Empire considered already won. Across the stars, millions of humans watched the transmission in uneasy silence. In a crowded war room deep beneath Earth's surface, General Marcus Caldwell sat motionless, his sharp green eyes locked on the holographic image of the Emperor. The mocking laughter grated at him, but he remained impassive, his weathered face betraying nothing. Beside him, Colonel David Reeves shifted uncomfortably, his clenched fists resting on the table. "They think this is over before it's begun," Reeves muttered under his breath, his voice a low growl. Caldwell finally spoke, his tone calm but carrying an edge of steel. "Let them laugh. It's easier to defeat an enemy blinded by their own arrogance." His words silenced the room, the assembled officers looking to him for guidance. Caldwell had earned their respect through decades of service, his brilliance in aerial warfare matched only by his unyielding determination. As the Emperor's image faded, replaced by the sterile lighting of the war room, Caldwell turned to address his team. "Make no mistake," he said, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "This isn't just a battle for Earth's survival. It's a fight to show them what humanity is capable of. They underestimate us because they've only seen what we've allowed them to see." The room stirred with renewed energy, but Reeves remained skeptical. "With all due respect, sir, they've already mobilized fleets we can't hope to match with conventional means. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. What can we possibly show them?" Caldwell met his gaze with unwavering confidence. "We show them what they've never anticipated. And that's why you're here, Colonel." Reeves' eyes widened slightly. He'd heard rumors, whispers of classified projects buried beneath layers of secrecy. "You mean—" "I do," Caldwell interrupted. "The time has come to unveil everything we've been working on. The Emperor mocks our machines because he's never seen the true extent of our capabilities. But he will." The war room erupted into murmurs of speculation. Caldwell silenced them with a raised hand. "For now, we let them bask in their overconfidence. They'll overreach. And when they do, we'll strike with precision and power they can't imagine." Far from Earth, aboard one of the Empire's colossal dreadnoughts, Admiral Tharlos watched the broadcast replay with mild amusement. The amphibious alien's wide mouth curled into a smirk as he reviewed intelligence reports on Earth's defenses. "Primitive," he remarked to his second-in-command, a lanky insectoid named Vrikar. "Their jets are little more than relics compared to our fighters. This human spirit they speak of is no substitute for advanced engineering." Vrikar clicked its mandibles in agreement. "And yet, Admiral, they resist. Surely it would be simpler to deploy overwhelming force and end this charade." Tharlos shook his head. "The Emperor wishes to make an example of them. Crushing their spirit before annihilating them ensures no other species will dare defy us. Let the humans squirm a while longer. It amuses him, and frankly, it amuses me." Back on Earth, Caldwell moved through the underground hangar, where preparations were already underway. The air was thick with the hum of machinery and the focused energy of technicians and engineers working in tandem. Massive aircraft, their sleek designs unlike anything the Empire had encountered, stood hidden beneath tarpaulins. These weren't the crude relics the Emperor had mocked. They were the result of years of clandestine development, melding human ingenuity with alien technology salvaged from earlier skirmishes. Caldwell paused before one of the aircraft, his hand resting on the cool surface of its metallic frame. A young pilot approached, saluting sharply. "General, The squadron is ready for operational testing. The pilot's youthful face reminded Caldwell of his own early days in the cockpit, before the weight of command had settled on his shoulders. He nodded. Good. You'll need to be ready for more than tests soon enough. As the pilot moved off, Reeves joined Caldwell, his expression a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. You really believe these will be enough? They don't have to be enough, Caldwell replied. They just have to be better than anything the Empire expects. They've underestimated us, David. That's their first mistake. And their second? Caldwell's gaze hardened, thinking they'll live long enough to make a third. In the heart of the Nevada desert, hidden beneath layers of rock and secrecy, humanity's most ambitious military project had reached its final stages. General Marcus Caldwell stood at the edge of the massive underground hangar, watching as engineers swarmed around the sleek, angular shapes of aircraft that bore no resemblance to anything Earth had publicly shown. These were not the jets the Galactic Empire had mocked. They were something else entirely. Raptor X, Sky Phantom, Caldwell muttered, naming two of the gleaming prototypes before him. Each name carried weight, a promise of power and precision that would soon be tested in the fires of battle. Colonel David Reeves joined him, his boots echoing faintly against the polished floor. I've read the specs a dozen times, Reeves began, his tone hesitant, but seeing them in person is something else. These things don't just look advanced, they look alien. They should, Caldwell replied, his eyes never leaving the aircraft. Half of what you see is reverse-engineered from tech we've recovered over the years. The rest is human ingenuity at its finest. We took what we could learn from the Empire and made it better, stronger, deadlier. Reeves folded his arms, still processing the scene before him. I can't believe we kept this hidden. Not just from the Empire, but from our own people. That secrecy kept us alive, Caldwell said firmly. If the Empire had even a hint of what we were building, this planet would already be a wasteland. Now, the question is whether we can deploy it in time to make a difference. As they spoke, a technician approached, her face smudged with grease, but her eyes bright with determination. General, Colonel, the systems check on the Raptor X is complete. AI integration is running at full capacity, and the stealth protocols are exceeding expectations. Good, Caldwell said with a nod. What about the plasma cannons? Fully operational, she replied, a hint of pride in her voice. They'll tear through anything the Empire can field. Reeves raised an eyebrow. Plasma cannons? On aircraft that small? The technician grinned. That's the beauty of human innovation, sir. We don't need massive warships to pack a punch. Caldwell allowed himself a rare smile. Make sure the pilots know what they're handling. I want everyone fully briefed by the time we're in the air. The hangar buzzed with activity as the pilots prepared for their first live test. Among them was Captain Nathan Drake, a seasoned aviator known for his unorthodox tactics and unshakable confidence. Standing beside his assigned craft, he ran a hand along its wing, as if familiarizing himself with a new partner. This is a far cry from the old F-22s, Drake said, his voice tinged with awe. You sure this thing can fly? A fellow pilot chuckled nearby. Fly? These birds don't just fly. They'll make those Empire ships wish they'd never left their hangars. Drake smirked but said nothing, his focus returning to the jet before him. He could feel the weight of the moment, the responsibility that came with piloting one of humanity's most advanced creations. The stakes were higher than ever, and failure was not an option. Caldwell and Reeves watched from an observation deck as the first wave of aircraft taxied onto the underground runway. A hush fell over the hangar as the engines roared to life, a sound unlike any Earth had heard before, deep, resonant, and filled with untapped potential. Drake's leading this sortie? Reeves asked. He is, Caldwell confirmed. If anyone can push these machines to their limits, it's him. The jets launched in a blur of motion, disappearing into the dark expanse of the desert sky. On board, the pilots adjusted to the cutting-edge controls, guided by AI systems that seemed almost alive in their responsiveness. Drake's voice crackled over the comms. Raptor X to command. We're airborne and ready for the next phase. Understood. Raptor X, Caldwell replied. Proceed to the test coordinates. Let's see what these birds can do. The test site was a desolate stretch of desert, far from prying eyes. As the jets reached their designated altitude, the pilots engaged their weapon systems, targeting old decommissioned tanks and drones scattered across the terrain. Plasma bolts lanced through the air, their energy crackling with deadly precision. In seconds, the targets were reduced to smoldering wreckage. "Damn," one pilot muttered. "These things are monsters, and we're just getting started," Drake replied. "Form up. Let's push the stealth systems next." The aircraft disappeared from radar in an instant, their cloaking mechanisms rendering them invisible to all but the naked eye. Caldwell observed the results on his screen, satisfaction evident in his expression. "They'll never see us coming," Reeves said, his tone finally carrying a note of optimism. "That's the idea," Caldwell replied. "But this is just the beginning. The Empire's not going to sit back and wait for us to hit them. We need to be ready for anything." Back in the sky, Drake and his squadron completed their maneuvers, each test confirming the aircraft's capabilities beyond expectations. But as they began their return to base, an alert flashed across their consoles. "Unidentified object approaching," the AI announced in its calm, mechanical tone. Drake's instincts kicked in. "Command, we've got company." "Looks like the Empire decided to pay us a visit." Caldwell's jaw tightened. "How many?" "Just one," Drake replied. "Looks like a scout, probably sniffing around after that broadcast." "Take it out," Caldwell ordered. Drake didn't need to be told twice. He broke formation, his jet accelerating with a speed that left the other pilots stunned. The Empire's scout craft was sleek and agile, but it was no match for the Raptor X. With a single shot, Drake obliterated the intruder, its remains scattering across the desert. "Target neutralized," Drake reported, his tone steady. "Good work," Caldwell said. "Now get back to base." This was only the first move. The real fight is coming. As the jets returned, the hangar erupted into applause, the tension giving way to cautious celebration. But Caldwell remained focused, his mind already on the battles to come. The unveiling of Earth's advanced aircraft had been a success, but he knew it was only a matter of time before the Empire responded. Standing by one of the jets, Reeves placed a hand on Caldwell's shoulder. "Think they'll be ready for us?" Caldwell's eyes hardened. "No. And by the time they realize it, it'll be too late." The scene faded into quiet determination as technicians and pilots began preparing for the next phase. The Empire had underestimated humanity for the last time, and now, Earth was ready to show its true strength. The black void of space came alive with flashes of light and explosions as the Galactic Empire's fleet descended upon Earth's orbital defenses. Dozens of their massive warships, each bristling with weaponry, moved with ominous precision, their captains confident in their overwhelming superiority. The Empire's arrogance, cultivated over centuries of domination, left them blind to the trap they had just walked into. Inside the sleek cockpit of his Raptor X, Captain Nathan Drake scanned the swarm of enemy vessels. His fingers danced across the controls, the advanced AI interface responding to his every command with seamless precision. Around him, the rest of the squadron maneuvered into position, their jets invisible to the enemy's scanners. "Command, this is Drake. We're in position, awaiting your go," he said, his voice steady despite the enormity of the moment. In the underground command center, General Caldwell stood before a massive tactical display, watching the enemy's fleet spread across Earth's orbit like a swarm of locusts. Beside him, Colonel Reeves tracked the real-time movements of the Raptor X squadron, the tension in the room palpable. "Hold your position," Caldwell ordered over the comms. "We're waiting for the right moment." That moment came when the Empire's fleet opened fire, targeting Earth's orbital defense platforms. Beams of energy lit up the darkness, striking their targets with devastating accuracy. Debris scattered into the void, and for a brief instant, the Empire's commanders believed their victory was assured. "Now," Caldwell said, his voice cutting through the room like a blade. Drake didn't hesitate. "You heard the man. Engage." The Raptor X jets broke formation, their cloaking devices disengaging as they streaked toward the enemy fleet. Plasma cannons blazed to life, bolts of crackling energy slamming into the Empire's ships with surgical precision. The Empire's shields, designed to withstand conventional attacks, faltered against the cutting-edge weaponry, leaving their vessels vulnerable. The first target, a frigate, erupted in a fiery explosion as Drake's plasma rounds found its reactor core. "One down," he called out, his tone grimly satisfied. The rest of the squadron followed suit, each jet moving with a lethal grace that defied the Empire's expectations. The Raptor X jets danced through the chaos, their agility and speed making them nearly impossible to hit. The Empire's gunners, accustomed to lumbering battleships, struggled to track the smaller, faster targets. On the bridge of the Empire's flagship, Grand Admiral Thalric watched the battle unfold with growing frustration. "What are those things?" he demanded, his voice a mix of anger and disbelief. "How are they tearing through our fleet?" His subordinates scrambled for answers, but none came. The Raptor X jets were unlike anything the Empire had faced before, their technology a blend of human ingenuity and stolen alien designs. As another of his ships exploded, Thalric clenched his fists. "Deploy the drones," he ordered. "Swarm them." Hundreds of small, automated fighters poured out of the Empire's carriers, their movements chaotic and relentless. The swarm converged on the Raptor X jets, forcing the pilots into a deadly game of cat and mouse. Drake's cockpit lit up with warnings as the drones closed in. "Looks like they brought backup," he muttered. "Stay focused," Caldwell's voice came over the comms. "Use the AI to manage targeting. Trust your systems." Drake's jet banked sharply, plasma rounds slicing through the swarm as his AI plotted optimal firing solutions. Around him, his squadron did the same, their jets weaving through the chaos with breathtaking precision. But the drones kept coming, and for every one destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. The Empire's strategy was clear: overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers. Caldwell watched the battle unfold, his mind racing. The Raptor X jets were holding their own, but they couldn't sustain this pace forever. "Deploy the second wave," he ordered. From hidden launch sites across Earth, another squadron of advanced aircraft roared into the sky. These were the Sky Phantoms, designed for long-range engagements and equipped with experimental missile systems. The Sky Phantoms entered the fray with devastating effect. Their missiles tore through the drone swarm, creating gaps that the Raptor X pilots exploited with ruthless efficiency. Drake took advantage of the opening, targeting a destroyer that had been raining fire on Earth's surface. His plasma rounds found their mark, ripping through the ship's engines and sending it spiraling into the void. "Nice shot," one of his wingmen called out. "Thanks," Drake replied. "But we're not done yet. Form up. We're taking out that carrier." The squadron regrouped, their jets streaking toward the massive carrier at the heart of the enemy fleet. Anti-aircraft fire lit up the space around them, but the Raptor X jets evaded with uncanny precision. As they closed in, Drake locked onto the carrier's main reactor. "Firing plasma torpedoes," he announced, releasing two glowing projectiles that sped toward their target. The torpedoes struck true, penetrating the carrier's shields and detonating deep within its hull. The resulting explosion was blinding, the shockwave rippling through the enemy fleet and throwing their formations into disarray. On the Empire's flagship, Thalric staggered as the explosion rocked his ship. "How is this possible?" he muttered, his confidence unraveling. The answer came in the form of a transmission from Earth. Caldwell's face appeared on the flagship's main screen, his expression cold and unyielding. "You underestimated us," Caldwell said, "and now you're paying the price." Thalric's eyes narrowed. "This isn't over, human. We will crush you." "Not today," Caldwell replied. The transmission ended, and the Raptor X jets pressed their advantage, exploiting the chaos to take out more of the Empire's ships. One by one, the enemy vessels succumbed, their arrogance proving to be their undoing. As the last of the Empire's ships fled, Drake let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "They're running," he said, his voice a mix of relief and triumph. "Let them," Caldwell said over the comms. "This was just the beginning. We've shown them what we're capable of. Now it's time to finish the fight." The battle had been decisive, a turning point in humanity's war against the Galactic Empire. But Caldwell knew the war was far from over. The Empire would regroup, and when they returned, they would come with everything they had. For now, though, Earth stood defiant. its skies protected by the most advanced aircraft humanity had ever built. And as Drake and his squadron returned to base, their jets gleaming against the backdrop of the stars, one thing was clear. Humanity would not bow. The skies over Earth were quiet once more, the echoes of battle fading into the vastness of space. The Galactic Empire's once mighty fleet had been reduced to smoldering debris and scattered survivors fleeing for their lives. Yet, even in the midst of victory, the weight of what had been fought and won pressed heavily on the minds of Earth's defenders. In the underground command center, General Caldwell stood at the center of the room, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The remnants of the Empire's fleet blinked out of range, their retreat marking the first significant defeat the Empire had suffered in centuries. Cheers erupted from the room, but Caldwell remained silent, his expression unreadable. "General?" Colonel Reeves stepped forward, his voice tentative. "We did it." Caldwell exhaled deeply, finally allowing himself a small nod. "We won this battle," he said, his tone firm yet somber. "But this war is far from over." Nathan Drake's voice crackled over the comms. "Command, this is Raptor X-1. We're coming home." "Understood, Captain," Caldwell replied. "Excellent work out there. You and your men performed beyond expectations." Drake, sitting in his cockpit amidst the battered remnants of his squadron, allowed himself a moment to savor the general's words. Around him, the Raptor X jets flew in formation, their sleek frames marked by the scars of battle. Each pilot knew they had not just fought for survival, but for the very existence of Earth and humanity's place among the stars. The jets landed smoothly on the airstrip of a hidden base carved into the mountains. Technicians and support crews swarmed the aircraft, checking for damage and preparing them for future engagements. Drake climbed out of his cockpit, his boots hitting the tarmac with a sense of finality. Major Tomlinson, the squadron's operations officer, approached with a broad grin. "You really gave them hell up there, Nate." Drake shrugged, his usual cocky smirk returning. "They came to our house thinking we'd roll over. I just gave them a proper welcome." Tomlinson laughed, but his expression grew serious as he looked at the exhausted pilots disembarking from their jets. "We lost a lot of good men today." Drake nodded, his smile fading. "Yeah, we did. And we'll lose more before this is over. But at least now, they know we're not afraid to fight back." In the command center, Caldwell and Reeves reviewed the post-battle reports. Damage assessments, casualty lists, and intelligence gathered from the wreckage painted a grim picture. The Empire's fleet had been formidable, but this was likely just a fraction of their total strength. "We need to prepare for retaliation," Reeves said, his brow furrowed. "The Empire doesn't take losses lightly." "I know," Caldwell replied, "but this victory gives us leverage. It proves we're not as weak as they thought. And it sends a message to every species under their boot that resistance is possible." A knock at the door interrupted their discussion. A young officer entered, saluting sharply. "Sir, you need to see this." The officer handed Caldwell a tablet, the screen displaying intercepted communications from the Empire. Fragments of conversations revealed the shock and disarray spreading through their ranks. Words like unthinkable, humiliated, and unexpected stood out, painting a picture of an empire struggling to reconcile their defeat. "This is just the beginning," Caldwell said, his voice filled with resolve. "We've shown them what we're capable of. Now, we need to capitalize on it." Meanwhile, in the Empire's shattered ranks, Grand Admiral Thalric stood aboard his crippled flagship, staring out at the void. The destruction of his fleet weighed heavily on him, a humiliation he knew the Emperor would not forgive. "Prepare the report," he ordered his trembling subordinates. "The Emperor must know what we faced here." "And what will you tell him?" one of the officers dared to ask. Thalric's jaw tightened, his pride wounded. "That humanity is not to be underestimated, and that we will need everything in our arsenal to crush them." Back on Earth, the aftermath of the battle unfolded not just in strategic discussions, but in the hearts of the people. News of the victory spread like wildfire, igniting hope in a population that had lived under the shadow of annihilation. Footage of the Raptor X squadron's daring maneuvers and the fiery destruction of the Empire's fleet played on screens across the globe. At a small airbase on the outskirts of the city, Drake stood before a group of young cadets who had watched the battle unfold from the ground. Their eyes were wide with admiration as he recounted the events, sparing no detail of the danger and sacrifice. Remember, he told them, his voice firm, this victory wasn't just about us. It was about showing the galaxy what humanity stands for. Courage, resilience, unity. And it's up to all of you to carry that forward. The cadets saluted, their resolve solidifying in the wake of his words. As the day turned to night, Drake found himself alone on the airstrip, staring up at the stars. The sky seemed calmer now, but he knew the peace was temporary. He thought of the pilots who hadn't made it back, their lives sacrificed for a chance at survival. Their names would be remembered, their bravery immortalized in the annals of history. Caldwell approached, his footsteps breaking the silence. Couldn't sleep either? Drake shook his head. Just thinking about what's next. What's next, Caldwell said, his tone measured, is ensuring this victory wasn't in vain. The Empire will come back, and when they do, they'll come in full force. Drake smirked, a flicker of his usual bravado returning. Good. Let them. We'll be ready. Caldwell placed a hand on his shoulder, a rare gesture of camaraderie. You did good today, Nathan. We all did. As they stood there under the vast expanse of the universe, a quiet determination settled over them. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Yet, for the first time in what felt like an eternity, humanity had hope. Hope that their ingenuity, courage, and unyielding spirit could stand against even the most formidable of foes. Hope that the stars, once symbols of unreachable dreams, could one day be theirs to explore freely. And with that hope came a promise that no matter the cost, Earth would remain unbroken.